Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I want to make what I'm hoping is probably going to be the last video that I'll ever make on this topic, because I'm honestly getting a little bit sick of this. I'm getting sick of talking about Masters of the Universe Revelation, and I also feel like there's nothing I could say after this that I wouldn't just find myself, repeating what I've already said in previous videos. So unless something comes out that, convinces me that I can make a video where I can say something that I haven't already said before, this is probably going to be the last time I'm ever going to talk about this. So just letting you know up front. So Masters of the Universe Revelation officially dropped 2 days ago. Now, I didn't make a review. I didn't make a review because I sat down, I watched it, and yeah, it's basically everything we already knew it was going to be. All of the rumors were true. None of the rumors that came out were false, and we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, the second I saw this, I thought, you know what? Anyone with a brain can look at what's going on and immediately figure out that Kevin Smith lied. The show is basically a giant middle finger to everyone who ever had any amount of love for He-Man or the Masters of the Universe property. That's basically what it is. It's basically a giant middle finger to every fan, whether you're a casual fan like me or you're a more hardcore fan of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. This is basically just a giant middle finger to you. So we're going to talk about this in a second, but I just want to talk about Kevin Smith. Now, I've talked about him before in videos, especially the previous video that I made, where I basically called him out for being a lying bitch, because that's exactly what he is. He is a lying bitch. Okay, he went out there and he continually lied to people about what the show is. And when the show finally came out and people finally saw it for what it is, they immediately let their voices be heard. Now, before the show even came out, considering what we knew about the show, a lot of us already predicted the spin that was going to happen by a lot of these media outlets, where they're basically going to go out there and say, oh, if you didn't like this, you're insert typical social media buzzword here. We already knew this is what was going to happen. If you are someone who even remotely criticized this show and calling it out for being what it is, you are considered, like I said, insert social media buzzword here. We already knew we already knew this was going to happen. Excuse me, we already knew. Just to give you an example, CBR right now, CBR is out there. They just put out this article 2 days ago when the show got published. It's the 25th now, it came out on the 23rd. Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe audience ratings is being review bombed. It's being review bombed. It's funny how these people will go out there and they'll say that whenever a show shows this, whenever a show has excuse me, has a very high rating from the critics and then a very low rating from the audience, they immediately think it's being review bombed. And yet, interestingly enough, when there's a movie out there or a show where the audience absolutely love it, but the critics hate it, you don't see any articles like this where they say, oh, critics are review bombing the show or they're review bombing the movie. It's never the other way around. It's always one-sided. It's always one-sided. If audience hates something, it's being review bombed, or the people who gave it a negative score are being accused of being whatever is terphobe. Again, like I said, insert social media buzzword here. It's always the case. But again, for example, just to give you an example, remember a movie that came out, I think it was in 2019, a movie called Shaft that had Samuel Jackson. A movie that had a predominantly black cast. Actually, I don't think there was a single white character there, if I remember correctly. Maybe the villain, if I remember, was white, although maybe it wasn't white. I think it was something else. Anyway, it was a predominantly black cast. And when that movie came out, people saw the movie, The audiences loved it and the critics hated it. So you now using their logic, if they hated it, then doesn't that technically mean that they're a bunch of racists, that they don't like black people in movies? Because remember, this is their logic. If you criticize something that just happens to have a female character, that happens to have a minority character, that happens to have a character that is a member of the LGBTQ community, all of a sudden you're a nist, you're a phobe, or you're a whatever the fuck. Like I said, insert social media buzzword here. But if it happens to them, for example, like I said, when it comes to Shaft, if they overwhelmingly negatively review the movie, doesn't that technically mean, again, by their logic, that they're a bunch of racists? Again, I'm trying to use their logic here. This is their logic. If you criticize a movie that just so happens to have this, that technically makes you a racist. Again, their logic, not mine. But of course, you never hear it. Now they're trying to spin this narrative that the people who are negatively reviewing this, by the way, it was a lot lower the last time I checked. I don't know what's going on. We know Rotten Tomatoes, they like to change things. So I don't know. To me, it just seems a little bit weird that all of a sudden it started getting lower and lower and lower, and then it's starting to pick back up. I just think there's something a little bit weird here. So they're trying to say that because it has a rotten score when it comes to the audience, now they're trying to push this narrative that apparently it's being review bombed. You know, it can't possibly be that maybe, just maybe, you put out a product that was terrible. You put out a product that was just not good, a product that people saw and realized that it was a bait and switch, that you went out there, you marketed the show as being a He-Man centric show, and then He-Man is barely in the show. Well, part one of the show, anyway, we don't know about part two, again, just to be fair. Part one of the show, he's barely there. Only appears in the first episode and then in flashbacks. You're now getting mad at people for being pissed off. Again, you did this. You purposefully lied to them. Like I said, it's basically like The Last of Us Part 2. They put in the marketing that this was going to be basically another Joel and Ellie adventure. They literally created a scene for the trailers that was never going to be in the game, just to trick people into thinking that this was a game that it never was. And then what happened? People bought the game, and then the first weekend or the first week, it had pretty high sales numbers, which makes sense because normies who played the first game were really looking forward to a sequel. They think, oh, this is a sequel to the game that I like, so they went out and bought it. But then what happened when they bought it? They saw what it is. Word of mouth started to spread. This isn't what they marketed it to be. And then immediately you saw sales fall off a cliff. And what happened? We started seeing pictures being spread around on social media where there are just these bins of Last of Us Part 2 copies. People trying to return their copies, to the point where even some stores say that they have this new policy of we won't allow you to return games anymore. Because the stores knew that people were going to hate this game. They knew they were immediately going to try to return the game. So they completely came up with a new policy on the spot saying that, oh, I'm sorry, we can't allow you to return the game. I think it was after like a certain period of time. So yeah, there was that. And this is basically the same thing. Now, Kevin Smith said something, again, which should just speak to who he is as a person. Now, I don't know much about who Kevin Smith was as a person. I knew about him, of course, but I never really knew all that much about him. I knew he was pretty big in the geek community, but personally, I never saw it. I heard about him, but I don't think I ever really saw any of his movies. Now that I know about his movies like Clerks 2, Chasing Amy Dogma, I know he made those movies because I heard people talking about them, but personally, I never saw it, but... So I never really looked up to Kevin Smith much, but from what I know, people say that he used to be cool, and now he's basically just turned into another Hollywood type. I guess I'll just have to take their word for it, because I never knew that much about Kevin Smith in the first place. Again, I knew about him as a person. I've heard his name, but I never knew much about his work. But again, like I said, because I hear people, in on whether it's online or in the community, talk about how awesome Kevin Smith is. When I first heard about this and he's going to be the showrunner, I thought, okay, well, this is a guy who knows about nerd culture, so he's probably the right person. Well, now we know that's not really the case anymore. So yeah, there's that. So Kevin Smith said something in the well, actually, he said it in this live stream that he did for Comic Con, and he said something that again just shows you the kind of person that he is now. So he goes on to say, "You really think Mattel Television, who hired me and paid me money, wants to do an effing Masters of the Universe show without He-Man? Grow the f up." First of all, let me just remind you of something. This is a guy who still wears a backwards baseball cap in 2021 is telling you to grow the F up. A 51-year-old man who still wears his hat backwards is telling you to grow the F up. I'll just let that sink in for a second. So I just want to tell, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I do want to give a shout out to Stefani for giving us these clips. I don't want to watch the whole thing because I don't want to give you brain damage. But basically, she clipped these, and which is good because in the actual thing, they disabled the live chat, so you can't comment live. I think you can still comment in the comment section, but who knows? Maybe they turned that off by now. But basically, goes on to say, mocking fans who are upset at the character death, and then he talks about the lies. Talks about how, oh no, I never lied. Everything I said was factually correct. When no, Kevin Smith, you did lie. You did lie. You lied. You said He-Man does no stepping aside. But yeah, you made him step aside. You, again, tricked people into thinking that this was going to be a He-Man-centric show. And then in the first episode, you kill him off. Sorry, spoilers. You kill him off so that Teela can take center stage. So yeah, He-Man did technically step aside. That's another lie. And then you say, oh, I can't wait to see how people react to this. So he goes on to say, then he talks about how he didn't lie about the Teela having a girlfriend. Listen, if you watch the show, this was mostly in episode 2, which I think is going to contribute to the backlash that I'm fully expecting to happen. But in episode 2, when you see the interactions between Teela and Andra, you can clearly tell these two are a couple, or at the very least they're acting like a couple. Which is why if the show goes on and they never outright confirm that these two are together, I know for a fact that there's going to be a shit ton of backlash. People are going to accuse this guy of being of queer baiting, because that's exactly what it is. So Kevin Smith, I ask you now, are Teela and Andra a couple, or are they not a couple? Because because here's the thing, this is a lose-lose situation for Kevin Smith. He loses if he admits that they are a couple, because by doing that he will admit that yes, he did lie about Teela not having a girlfriend. But if he says that no, they're not a couple, then he basically now is officially he's been officially caught queer baiting. So this is a lose-lose situation for Kevin Smith. He does not win here. He loses no matter what happens. You either lied about Teela not having a girlfriend, or you just got caught queer baiting. It's one or the other, Kevin Smith. There's no third option. And then he goes on to talk about how there are apparently big Masters of the Universe fans working on the show. You know what? I don't doubt that there are probably some Masters of the Universe fans working on the show. And guess what? I'm willing to bet that they are just as mad as everyone else, because they got to see this shit happen. And then he goes on to say about how apparently in the next 5 episodes or something, because the 5 episodes we saw was just part 1 of the first season, which even with the next 5 episodes, it still doesn't make it a season of television. It's a Netflix season of television. An actual season of television has at least more than 20 episodes. This is Netflix season of television. It's only 10 episodes. Jesus fucking Christ. But yeah, this is where we are. This is where we are. You know what? Let's just listen to this. Just listen to this in case you're curious. Let me just get my headphones on real quick.
Like, I honestly, I can kind of get when people are like, oh, I wanted like more He-Man in this show and whatnot. You know, I want to say like, oh, just fucking wait.
Right.
Like, episode. I'm not. Should I? Fucking why not?
You can just say episode 6 goes hard.
Episode 6. The end of episode 6, we do something that they've never done in the franchise before.
You're gonna get more He-Man than you think you wanted.
And like episode 7 contains no bullshit. And you know, I know I'm going to say this, and then a very, very vocal contingency of the internet is going to say I'm lying or something.
Apologize.
Like that.
Atone.
That I'm baiting and switching.
Yeah.
I mean, can you blame them? Because you did bait and switch them. You told them that this show that was about to air on Netflix on July 23rd is all about He-Man. And yet He-Man is only there for the first episode. And then anytime he appears later, it's only in flashbacks, and they're only in these small 2-minute flashbacks. That's it. And then you think you're going to get him in the last episode, only for them to, let me know where you heard this before, but subvert your expectations. You can't blame people for thinking this because you did do it to them. That would be like, imagine if you had a friend who kept telling you about this awesome experience they had 5 years ago, and then it turns out that they lied about it. They lied about it this whole time. So now whenever they tell you a story about something that happened to them, you can't blame the person they're telling for being skeptical because you've lied to me before. You can't blame me for being skeptical.
Or something like that, but I promise you, on my child's life, in episode 7, there is a Skeletor and spoilers, He-Man fight that tops anything. That's one of the most brutal fucking.
So he said specifically episode 6 and 7. We can just stop it right there. So he said specifically episode 6 and 7. That to me is interesting. Because if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, and if you scroll down for a second, you can see they posted the names for the next 5 episodes. So here's my question. Considering the names of the episodes, and for him saying, you know, what he just said, that at the ending of episode 6, they do something that's never been done before. And then episode 7, there's a battle between He-Man and Skeletor. And episode 6 is called Cleaved in Twain, which usually means cleaved in two. And 7 is called Reason and Blood. And then episode 8 is called Gutter Rat, Hope for a Destination, and Comes with Everything You See. This is interesting because considering it's called Reason and Blood, do you think it's possible that they're gonna kill off He-Man and Skeletor for good this time in episode 7, and then episode 8 and 9 is somehow gonna be taken over? It's gonna become the Teela and Evelyn show, and we're gonna get more of that one scene where all they did was bitch about men. If you saw the show, you know what I'm talking about. I think it's in episode 3, if I remember correctly. Episode 3, where they're on the fucking ship and they're just talking about how we could have been so great if it wasn't for the men that have been keeping us down. Let me remind you, that scene where 2 women are talking about men keeping them down and holding them back from their true potential, this show is being helmed by 3 men. Just something to think about. So yeah, he goes on to talk about how there's He-Man or whatever.
Fights I've seen. The only brutal fight in animation I've seen more brutal was in Invincible when he fucking held his kid through the trains and
So yeah, there's the rest of that clip. And again, like I said, there's the next 5 episodes. So I'll let you see if you can find out what the hell these episodes mean. Because he talked about 6 and 7 and how there's going to be He-Man. But what about the rest of it? And it's called Reason and Blood. You say blood, who knows? We'll have to wait and see, I guess. But yeah, here's the thing. Considering he said this, you can't blame people for not wanting to take him at his word. So he says you're going to get He-Man in episode 6 and 7, and episode 7 is going to have an awesome fight. Are you sure about that, Kevin Smith? Are you sure about that? Because you told us that we were going to get He-Man in part 1, and we only got him in one episode. So should we? Are you sure we should believe you? Or are you just lying to us again because you're trying to get people to tune into part 2? And here's the thing. Here's the thing about part 2. I guarantee you a lot of people are not even going to watch it because they've been so burned by part 1. I guarantee you they will not tune in to watch part 2. And even if in part 2 they walk all of it back, even if in part 2 they bring Adam back, which, oh yeah, spoilers by the way for episode 5, Skeletor stabs Adam. So yeah, it's strongly implied that Adam is dead. And in fact, even Kevin Smith in the after show talked about how, can you believe I got to kill Adam twice? I got to kill He-Man twice. Yeah, man, dude, bro. So there is now, even if in part 2 they say that no, Adam's not dead, it was just another gotcha moment. You know, they made you think Prince Adam is dead. Turns out, nope, he's not dead, still alive. Even if, it's not gonna matter, because you already burned people. You've already done it. These people are not gonna tune in to watch part 2, even if they hear that yeah, you get more He-Man. It's not gonna matter. They're already pissed off. You already pissed them off. They're not coming back. All right, I'm just gonna end this video right here, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below if you like this video, and if you enjoy what I do here, remember to leave a like, share the video, subscribe, especially if you haven't. I want to give a big thank you to everyone who did subscribe. I'm getting close to 500 subs. I just need 30 more. If you want to help me with that, guys, please click the subscribe button. I do check the analytics, and I know that a lot of you guys who watch my videos are not subscribed, so if you want to change that, help me out here. Again, I just need 30 people to help me hit that 500 sub mark. And if you want to help me get to 1,000, you know what to do. Just click the subscribe button, help me out, and remember to ring the bell for notifications to know whenever a new video goes out or whenever I go live. Thank you so much again. Remember to stay safe, take care of yourselves as always. Bye for now.